6:21 on a Monday night. Michael Cohen, 1320 WILS. Well, by now you probably know that sugar is really not a good thing for you to eat, especially in large quantities, but how problematic is it? Well, one thing's for sure, a new study finds that when it comes to teenagers, is it can be incredibly addictive. In fact, it affects their brain very differently than adults. To talk about this entire topic, we're joined by Dr. Gerald Edelman. He's the author of the book Sugar Rehab. He's an oncologist. The website, by the way, sugarrehabbook.com. Dr. Edelman, thanks for joining us on WILS once again.
A pleasure. Hi, Michael.
So if you have a teaspoon of sugar in your blood, right, I mean, how much sugar are you drinking when you have a sugar Coke? How much goes in your body then?
Okay, so let's talk about a sugar cube, the old-fashioned sugar cube. That has 4 grams of sugar in it. And so a Coke, a regular bottle of Coke, has about 10 of those sugar cubes in it.
40 grams.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to do. We'll talk about the study, but I want to really break this down because, look, we all eat some sugar. You know, it's something that's just part of having a social life. You go out, maybe someone has a cake or, someone's serving cookies, but I want to really get a better understanding of what is it that makes it so detrimental. We've talked to Dr. Edelman before. His suggestion is whatever you're buying in the store, make sure it has about 2 grams of sugar, and that's the key number. So, okay, we've got you on a landline.
Hello?
So, hey, how you doing, Dr. Edelman? So let's, because I want to go through this so people understand what sugar is doing and just how much goes in and how much our body has to begin with. So, if you're just walking around, you haven't eaten anything, how much sugar would you say is in the bloodstream? Is there a known number?
It's a concentration. So in your bloodstream, you have 90 milligrams in about 100 cc. So let's say 9 milligrams in a drop of blood. So we're talking grams. A milligram is 1,000th of a gram.
Okay, so let's say a gram of sugar at most, something like that in the blood? Or not even?
Well, so in a drop of blood, you're going to have about, let's just say, a very small teaspoon, less than a quarter of a teaspoon in a drop of blood, normally.
Okay, so what happens if you drink a Diet or a Coke and put 40 grams of sugar into your body? What is the actual reaction at that point?
So what happens is your pancreas secretes insulin. Insulin is a hormone that drops your blood sugar level back down to normal.
Okay. Is there anything wrong with that process? Any reason why we should be avoiding it?
That process is the process that causes the most harm in our society right now, because all of the foods that we're eating, many of the foods that we're eating have such a high sugar content that we get such an artificially high sugar spike in our bloodstream that we produce too much insulin, and that's what causes obesity. That's the bottom line.
Okay, so the insulin in our system, but so once you do this, I mean, is it just a spike of insulin and then within a half hour you're back to normal, or is there a lasting effect?
Yeah, so what happens is when you, let's say the kids in the study that drank 70 grams of sugar, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's like drinking 2 Cokes. So what happens is their insulin levels go up as a result in their bloodstream so that they can regulate back down to normal sugar levels. The effect of having spikes of insulin throughout the day, if you eat like that, if you eat the way most normal Americans eat, where you're getting spikes of blood sugar and therefore spikes of insulin followed by valleys, is a very bad effect on the body. There's a lot of data that shows that those spikes in insulin cause inflammation, they cause arthritis, they cause cardiovascular disease is linked to that, and a lot of cancers. So it's a very, very bad way to eat.
Okay, that's all due to sugar. And I know you consider bread. Is it bread both white and wheat bread also? Is that also considered sugar in your book?
My rule in the book is if the bread has 2 grams of sugar per serving or less and it's whole grain, it's on the acceptable list. But can I just give you a quick example for your listeners?
Sure.
So let's suppose that you wake up in the morning and you eat a bunch of bowls of cereal and a banana and some orange juice, and most of the cereals we eat have sugar added to them in addition. So what's going to happen to your morning is, you're going to be okay for about an hour or so. Then when your insulin is secreted, it drops your blood sugar back down. So about an hour and a half after you eat foods like that, you're hungry again. And what you're hungry for, because your blood sugar goes low from the insulin, is more of the same.
Gotcha. So the insulin actually takes your blood sugar below where it would have been before. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it can overshoot. The higher the blood sugar goes, the more the insulin has to compensate. So you're hungry, and everybody's had that experience, right? When you eat stuff like that, you get hungry a couple hours later. Usually you crave the same thing, which is more sugar. So it's a never-ending cycle, as opposed to, like, let's say you eat a bunch of protein, like even a steak in the morning, right? And you fill up on that. Well, you can just imagine a couple hours later, because your blood sugar hasn't spiked, your insulin hasn't gone up, therefore you don't crave more sugar, so you're more satisfied during the day. That's how that works.
I'm curious about. I'm talking to Dr. Gerald Edelman, the author of the book Sugar Rehab, the website sugarrehabbook.com. What about fruits? Lots of sugar in that. People think it's very healthy. Is there a problem with eating a whole bunch of fruit all day long?
Fruit is high in, most fruits have a lot of sugar in them. So in my book, I list okay fruits and not okay fruits. And to simplify that, berries of any kind are okay, but something like a banana, or say oranges or cherries, they're high in sugar. I mean, you can just sense that they're high in sugar, so you want to avoid those.
So
and I list that out in the book.
Is that the same insulin reaction than if you ate, let's say, a Snickers bar?
Yeah, it actually is the same insulin reaction. I'll tell you what else is interesting is fruit has not only glucose in it, which is the sugar that we've been talking about right now, but it has fructose in it. And fructose inhibits the brain from telling you that you're full. So everybody's had the experience, I think, where you've had some really good fruit and it's tasted great and it's sweet. And then what happens? Well, you know, an hour to 2 hours later, you want more. And that's because the brain doesn't register. It's not sending the signal out to your body that you're full. So you get a double negative effect from many of these sweet fruits.
Right.
One is the insulin effect, and two is because of the type of sugar, it's making you feel that you need to eat more.
I do want to get to the study. The Yale Medical School looked at this. When it comes to young people, in their brain, it actually it stimulates their control reward areas in their brain more so than adults. When it comes to sugar and what it does in the brain in terms of the addictive reactions, what is it we know about it?
We know that the sugar effect on the brain, like in this study, is behaviorally addicting. So that's what the study's saying is that the area of the brain that controls behavior, i.e. addictive behavior, it lights up on the PET scan in adolescents more than in adults. So it's highly behaviorally addicting, right? But the other thing that we also understand about sugar is that it really acts a lot on the brain like morphine.
How so? What do you mean?
What I mean is that the receptors for pleasure, reward center, are representing at the chemical level the same effect you get when you take an addictive substance like a narcotic.
So this is a drug, you're saying?
Yes. It's literally as addicting as a drug is what I'm saying.
And
at the chemical level.
Okay. Well, what makes it different than a drug like morphine then if it has that same brain reaction?
It has a lot of the same properties. It's really important for your listeners to understand what's similar. I mean, the properties that are similar is that you want more. And when you eat, like, you know, during the day, a lot of sugar, you get these peaks and valleys. So you're really constantly giving yourself another rush with the sugar throughout the day. So that cumulatively throughout the day results in more caloric intake and therefore obesity.
Talking in the past, your guideline is 2 grams of sugar per serving, right? That you want to see that or less in whatever you're eating?
Yeah, 2 grams of sugar or less is just a good guideline. The book outlines lists that are okay, not okay to bring in your home. Guideline...
Yeah. Can you give me just a couple, let's say, items, not necessarily the whole foods, but items that you'd find in the grocery store that kind of qualify in that range?
Sure. Anything in the perimeter of the grocery store, like cheese, aged cheeses, any chicken, fish, beef. There are natural peanut butters that have no sugar added, as an example. So peanut butter is an interesting thing to look at. If you look in the store at the different brands, you'll find a whole range of added sugars from 0 all the way up to, say, 2 or 3 sugar cubes. So with each item, even breads, you can find breads that have, say, 2 grams of sugar per serving, or there's 0 per serving. There are sugar-free breads now that are available.
No kidding. Sugar-free. I've yet to see that, but it sounds. Are they tasty?
Well, yeah, actually, what part of the addiction of sugar is that we get used to the taste. But a lot of foods actually taste better without a lot of sugar added to it. So these breads I'm talking about are actually, they're very substantive. They fill you up. They're very satisfying. And they have either 0 or 2 grams of sugar per serving. So just look at the packaging.
Do you yourself ever have a sugary snack, or is that something you just don't do?
Yeah, well, what's really good, the answer to that is yes, but I have about 6% body fat. So
wow.
the issue for a lot of folks in your audience is, how do I get from being overweight to not being overweight? So it requires a little more discipline. One of the tips that I have is there are some sugar-free candies available that you can prescribe for yourself when you need a fix. And I think they're much better for you than sugary candies. So try that. Try whipped cream. Whipped cream actually is pretty low in its sugar content and very satisfying. So there's some tricks of the trade to help you get off your addiction.
Dr. Gerald Edelman, author of the book Sugar Rehab. The website is sugarrehabbook.com. Dr. Edelman, thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.